Nintendo recently announced a partnership with Activision to include Bowser and Donkey Kong in Skylanders, but they've actually been discussing a crossover for years. Activision came to Nintendo when Skylanders' first game was in development, seeking help with the game's family fun angle. Nintendo felt like the gimmicks in previous Skylanders game, like the Swap Force and the Trap Team stuff, they felt that those gimmicks didn't fit with their established characters, but this time around, when the focus of the game is these vehicles, they think that this fits their characters a lot better, and since Nintendo unveiled Amiibo last year, then the companies began seriously discussing what a collaboration might look like, what guest appearances might look like, and how they could integrate these two toys-to-life ideas, and obviously the result is this turbocharged Donkey Kong and Hammer-Slam Bowser.
Yeah, I have some mixed feeling about this, because I understand Iwata's points that, they don't want to compromise the IP by changing them to fit someone else's game. They, want to put it in a game where it fits already. But at the same time, I think it could have been very beneficial for Nintendo to have their characters in Skylanders early on, because this is a franchise that just exploded and was churning out like $1 billion a year in revenue. It was everywhere, and now it's still a very popular series. It's still, one of the top-selling franchises each year, but it's definitely peaked and is declining a little bit. Exactly. Right. And, I think, the Skylander series kicked off right around the same time, or a little bit before Wii U came out, and I think it would have been really good to help draw a younger crowd to Wii U if Nintendo had found some way to work with Activision earlier.
Yeah. Well, especially because the point of the first game was just Skylanders. It wasn't, there weren't these gimmicks that they had to get kids to keep buying these new figures and stuff. Right. It was just, the very basic game. And in that kind of game, like, Bowser and Donkey Kong would have worked great. Whereas now, though, I feel like you kind of were touching on this point, but didn't quite get there in the way that, I'm seeing it. Whereas now it feels kind of like Nintendo is sort of reaching out and saying, almost desperately, not quite desperately, but almost.
You really
saying,
mean desperately,
hey,
though.
We really want to get in. Well, that kind of do. Saying, hey, we want to get in on this. Like, let's team up with Skylanders. Whereas, before, if they had teamed up, it would have been, a sign that we believe in this franchise. This is something that has big potential, and we think that, including our characters in this, we can get a piece of the pie without actually, making it look like it's a desperate push to stay relevant for either for Skylanders or for Nintendo, because I feel like in some way it also feels like Skylanders is floundering when they do something like this.
Yeah, with the first Skylanders game, they didn't have full confidence in the IP. They had to slap the Spyro name on top of it to see if it would sell, and then they quickly dropped that out of prominence. And I think having Nintendo IP in the first game would have been much bigger for promotion than being able to say, "Hey, Spyro, you guys remember Spyro, right? But buy this game because of Spyro."
Well, not only that, but having Spyro alongside Nintendo franchises would have been an even more symbolically significant move.
Yeah.
I think what intrigues me most about some of the stuff we've been saying is that, I think we would all agree that Nintendo shouldn't be waiting on what they perceive as good opportunities for third-party partnerships. They should be actively seeking these out and actively working on them.
And creating them.
Right. Yeah, creating them before they see these opportunities that have basically already passed by the time they actually jump on them. That's one thing that Sony and Microsoft, and Sony in particular, I feel, has been doing really well lately, is they've been really courting a lot of these, I won't say smaller projects, but like interesting projects, like Sony with No Man's Sky. Microsoft had Ori and the Blind Forest, which was an interesting departure from the kind of stuff they normally do. And Nintendo's been more conservative about stuff like that. They've partnered mostly with Japanese companies, mostly with established franchises from Japanese companies. So it'd be nice to see them play more in the Western third-party new IP space.
Especially considering how quickly Japan's market is shrinking. And, it becomes less and less relevant to cater to the Japanese market each year.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but especially looking at their history working with Rare, for example, and not only Donkey Kong, but Rare's own homegrown IP.
GoldenEye, Jet Force Gemini, Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct.
Banjo-Kazooie.
And now you're seeing the same thing with Retro.
Yeah. So, I hope we see more of this in the future, but I hope it doesn't take this long to come to fruition.
Hello everybody, thank you for listening to this Nintendo Week clip, NWC. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more highlights and discussion videos from Nintendo Week podcast, or subscribe to us on iTunes for weekly breakdowns of all your Nintendo news, discussion segments on subjects, games, and more, and tons of other features. Thanks for listening, and we will see you tomorrow with another NWC.